Hello, welcome to Threads FlossTube number 74. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm just going to have a chat today. We finished our series in the last episode of going through all of the projects that are coming up in my new book. And so I wondered what I could do for you today in today's FlossTube, and I realised there was a whole lot of things that I wanted to have a chat to you about. So that's what I'm going to do. So the first one, the most important thing, is that Frisian Whitework Dutch embroidery from Friesland is now up for pre-order on my website. I will put the link so that you can go straight there and order. When you go to it, you will see that there is where you can click to buy, and from there is a drop down menu which means you need to choose where your destination is, because there's a different price for sending it in Australia, which is only domestic postage obviously, to New Zealand, which isn't very far and so therefore doesn't cost that much, and then the rest of the world, which is obviously quite a bit more because it's got to go further and the postage there costs more. So you need to choose the correct one. Quite often people don't realise, put it in red so that hopefully people see, but a lot of people don't, that you need to choose from that drop down menu where your book is going to, and that will give you the correct price. Otherwise I need to follow up with an email to you to say, actually no, it's going to be more than that, because everyone invariably chooses the Australian one because it's the cheapest one. I can understand that. So therefore you need to make sure you do that, and then when the book arrives in probably end of April, beginning of May, I will send them all out. Now, normally I sign books that I send out. I don't advertise that fact because invariably there'll be one that I might forget to sign, and that person would be the one that would say, "You didn't sign my book." Yeah, I know how people are. So yes, think of it as a bonus if yours comes signed. I will be signing them as much as I can remember to, but I have a dreadful memory sometimes and I forget to do these things, and I apologise, but I am just one person. When you're pre-ordering my book, one of the things that I wanted to request of you is, where possible, please support small business. Some people have told me that they've pre-ordered from Amazon, and well, that's great. I'm really pleased that you have pre-ordered. An order is an order. But I'd really also like to request that you support the small needlework stores, and by doing this, we're able to help keep them open. Needlework stores are doing it tough in this environment. It's really difficult to compete against the big multinationals, but they do sell needlework books, and they would love to take your order for my forthcoming book. If they don't have it on their website, you can give them a call, or if you're in store, you can ask them for it. And if they don't have it, ask them if they'll get it in for you. But I just really think that it's incredibly important for us to support small business. So I want to encourage you to do that wherever possible. Thanks. Okay, now the next thing is that today on Fibre Talk podcast, there is a new podcast that's gone up, which is an interview with me. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Gary and Beth and I got together and had a chat. Well, not really got together. They were in America and in probably quite separate places, and I was here in Australia, and we had a chat over the internet, and it was fun, and it goes for about an hour. We talk about, well, it was about 4 or 5 years since I last did a chat with Gary on Fibre Talk. So there's been a lot to catch up on. I think at that time my Early Style Hardanger book had just come out, so we talked about that then. But he wanted to follow up on that, and since then also my book on Smoy came out, so we talked about that. And obviously the forthcoming book, Frisian Whitework Dutch embroidery from Friesland, we needed to talk about that as well. So we had a really enjoyable chat, so I will put the link on the screen and also down below if you're on YouTube, so that you can find where to go to listen to that. It's about an hour long, and we had a really enjoyable time. Thank you so much to Gary and Beth for having me. I always enjoy having a chat with you on Fibre Talk. So there's that. Now, yes, the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, I've still got a few more things on my list. There have been a number of people that have said to me, is the book going to only be available in English, or will it be available in other languages as well? That question is asked out of enthusiasm for the book, but it also does show a little bit of ignorance for my business and what it takes to write a book. So when I'm actually a book designer by training, and I worked for Reader's Digest Australia for a number of years as a book designer. Now this is one of the books that I worked on while I was there, and it's the book that I worked on while I was there that I'm probably most proud of. It's basically a map book, and the maps are very cleverly made so that they open up, and inside you have information about what's on the map and the things that are there. So it's really cleverly done, and it means that you can go straight across from different parts of Australia because the maps travel from one to the next page because of the way they open out. So you can see that it just keep going on and on. So it was a fabulous book to work on, and I really enjoyed it. This book, I was looking at the imprint page this morning, and I went and looked at all of the people that worked on it. There would have been 20 or more people who worked on this book, and it took us more than a year to do. It's a big book. It's quite thick. But there were authors, well, writers, pardon me. There were designers. I was one of a team. There were researchers. There were picture researchers. There were photographers. There were illustrators. There were proofreaders. There were people in the production department. They deal with the printers. There was the marketing people. There was editors. There was... I've probably said some of those more than once. But you can get the idea. There was a huge team working on this book. And it took us over a year to do it. Now, I've just finished writing my book, Frisian Whitework, Dutch Embroidery from Friesland. It took me 3 years. Yvette Creations, my business, is just me. I don't have a foreign language rights department. I don't have a marketing department. I don't have a photography department. I don't have an editorial department. I don't have a design department. I don't have a production department. They are all just me. So this book's taken 3 years to write. If I had also done it in other languages as well, it would have taken far, far longer. And it's beyond the scope of what I can do. Some of my books have been taken into other languages. So my Sardinian book and my Portuguese book have been translated into French. And the way that happened was that a French publisher approached me and asked to license the rights to publish the book in French in their jurisdiction. Don't think that's a really good way of phrasing it, but yeah, I have licensed them the rights to publish it in French. If my new book was to be published in other languages, that is the way I would go about doing it. Other publishers would approach me, or I could approach them, but I don't know which ones to approach because I'm not in those other jurisdictions and I'm not familiar with what the best publishers are. Though they could approach me and we could negotiate the rights for them to publish it in their language. And that is a common thing that happens across the world in publishing. For me to do it in other languages, and I'm assuming the most likely one would be Dutch because it is a book about Norwegian. Dutch embroidery. Got Norwegian on the brain. Yes, it's a book about Dutch embroidery, so it would be most sensible to have it in Dutch. But that hasn't happened yet. It may happen in the future, but it hasn't happened yet. And I just hope that it helps you to understand why it is that it hasn't happened. It's not because of lack of desire for it to happen. It's just that I am one person. I can't do everything. So I hope that helps. The other thing, now I've got a list here of things I want to talk about. Oh yeah, okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about today was my family. I don't talk about my family very much. They're a big part of my life, and I have 2 daughters and a husband. And we moved here from Sydney about 2 years ago, and my elder daughter stayed in Sydney because she had just started university and she has stayed there doing her university degree. Our younger daughter came with us, and because she's still at school, and so she is here with us. Neither of my daughters have ever shown a huge desire to want to learn to embroider, and that is absolutely fine. People ask me, do your daughters embroider? And I usually say no, they don't, and that's fine, because just because I love something doesn't mean they have to. They have their own areas of interest and areas of talent, and just because I love it doesn't mean they have to as well. they do appreciate my work, and my younger daughter has already bagged several pieces that she's going to have when I die. Thanks so much, darling. But they really do appreciate my work, and they're some of my biggest cheer squad, and fans. So my elder daughter, who is in Sydney studying a very mind-bending science degree in neuroscience and nanotechnology, she has helped me out at the craft show sometimes when I've been selling my wares at the Sydney Craft and Quilt Fair, and she's come along and she's been my assistant, and she's handled customers beautifully because she has great customer service skills, and so she's had to learn a bit about embroidery for that so that she can answer their questions knowledgeably, and she does it really well. So for her birthday this year, she asked us if she could have the gift of a tambour embroidery class, and in it they did tambour embroidery and tambour beading. And so, yes, of course, why am I going to say to my daughter, no, you can't have that? So she did it, and she loved it, and she took to it really well. And while she hasn't done much embroidery in the past, she picked it up really quickly. And I'd say that's because she's a talented girl who learns well, but also because she's seen me embroidering all her life, and how you embroider has just sunk in without her even needing to do it. So she really enjoyed that, and now she's talking about perhaps going off to Lesage and doing one of their courses because she'd love to do that. She's just a multi-talented sort of person, and anything she tries, she does really well at. So while I was last visiting her, I took some sneaky photos of what she did. So I'm going to show them to you so that you can see what she did. Now, it's not much, and as we know, you can do a 2-day course in a thing and you can come away with practically nothing, but it's the things that you've learned that, and not the amount that you completed, that are the important things. So she loved it and she did really well at it. Now, my younger daughter is a gymnast. If you've been reading my blog for any length of time, I have talked about her in the past, not so much recently. I used to call her the gymnast. I don't anymore, I guess because I haven't really talked about her recently. So she is getting up to quite high levels of gymnastics, being the age that she is and the skill level that she has. And on the weekend, she and I were down in Sydney for her to compete in the state championship trials. Now, a bit of context for this is that in August last year, she suffered 2 concussions in quick succession. We didn't know about either of them, and that's a whole nother story, but it happened and she was quite badly affected by it. Since then, she has been suffering from post-concussion syndrome, and it's really affected her. Concussion is a brain injury, and she has injured her brain, and it just takes time and rest to get over that. So it's made quite a bit of difference to her life. Since August she wasn't training, partly because of COVID, because gyms were shut down, but partly because she just couldn't, she wasn't able to. In December, her neurologist said that it was vital that she returned to gymnastics, so she was so thrilled to be able to get the go-ahead to do that. And he gave her some guidelines for what she was to do and not to do, and they were very generous guidelines, but he has some understanding of gymnastics, so that was really helpful. So from December, she was building up from nothing because she hadn't done gymnastics for months, and she trained over the Christmas holidays as much as she could, and obviously she trains while she's at school as well. I mean, at the end of the school day, blah, blah, blah. And she's built up from nothing, and she's really worked very hard. So she competed on Saturday morning at the state championships in level 9, and she did exceptionally well. She came third on vault and first on beam. And I'm so proud of her, of what she's overcome to get there. Yeah, it was fantastic. I'm really proud of how well she did. So yeah, fantastic. Now the other person that I wanted to talk about is my husband. My husband is a school librarian, and we came here to our little town because of him. He's got a job here, and he loves being a librarian, but he has also always loved cooking. And some years ago for his birthday, I gave him a course at the Australian Patisserie School, which was a 5-day course doing all sorts of patisserie things. And he absolutely loved it. He brought home the most amazing creations, none of which I could eat. I have a dairy allergy, and so there was nothing that he made that I could actually eat, but it all looked beautiful and fantastic. And since then, he has adapted some of those recipes to make them dairy-free, and he's also, where possible, made them gluten-free as well, so that people with specific food requirements are able to eat his beautiful creations. He's started a small business cooking for the local farmers markets that we have here once a month. And he makes macarons and beautiful tarts and some biscuits. He has done some cakes as well in the past, just small ones. And, oh, and Christmas cakes too, yeah. And he just does an amazing job, and they look beautiful, and people rave about how fantastic they taste. So I wanted to show you some of his creations as well. So today I just wanted to have a chat to you about some of the things that have been happening. So the book coming out, the book being available for pre-order, the Fibre Talk interview, which you can go and listen to, why my book's not available in more than English language at the moment, and also how proud I am of my family. So thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Bye.